What's up, JEFusion fans? This is Philip, and welcome back to another video. So, I'm going to talk about Superhero Time from February 22nd. So, we're going to talk about Kamen Rider Zeztz episode 23 and Gavan Infinity episode 2. Now, it's been out. These episodes have been out for like 2-3 days or so already, you know. But just to be sure, so this time I'm not really gonna include anything that's kind of spoilerish, but just in case, since these episodes have already been out and you could probably find subbed versions already, then I highly recommend that you still go ahead and watch them first before coming back to this video. Or, if you've already watched those episodes or you don't mind me talking about some of the details, then by all means, enjoy this video. But again, not really on the spoilery side, so don't worry about that. So anyways, let's talk about Kamen Rider Zeztz episode 23. So, we continue from last week with Nox versus Baku, of course, and Baku was obviously dominating with the Catastrum. So, of course, the battle is finished. Baku technically wins, and Inspector Fujimi and Nazca arrive at the scene, and of course, Inspector Fujimi checks on Nox, aka Kensei, but he's not breathing. However, Nazca says that, hey, Baku's still alive, so they take him home and they try to recover, Kensei's remains. But I'm not saying that he's gonna be out for the count just yet. No, 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 no. I'm expecting Nox to come back sooner or later. Just you wait. Now, moving on to Baku for a sec. So, after this battle, so after using the Catastrophe for the first time, so it does take a toll on, Baku's body. So he is again unconscious for a few days. So, at home, so Baku is resting, and at this point, Agent 3 comes in to check in on Baku, and by coincidence, so Inspector Fujimi and Nazca also arrive at the scene as well. So they meet Agent 3 and ask him about code. And, of course, he doesn't want to say anything. And Nazca, of course, lashes out at him because of what happened to Agents 5 and 6. Especially 6, of course. So Kureha was Nazca's best friend in high school. Now, backtracking to episode 22 for a bit regarding 5 and 6. Now, what happened was, right? So they tried to follow Nox and they tried to take him down, but he was working with the Nightmare and they were overwhelmed. So, the Nightmare and Kamen Rider Nox overwhelm Agents 5 and 6, and 5 doesn't even get to transform. He tries to, but he's overpowered. And 6, well, she does transform into Lord 6. She also gets defeated quite easily. Now, what Nox does is something that you really wouldn't expect from a Kamen Rider show, let alone, again, like it's a kids show, right? Kids are supposed to be watching this unlike daytime TV. So what Nox does is he pulls out a gun and shoots both 5 and 6. So, what happens is, while, that happens, Agent 3 was actually monitoring them and he notices that their vital signs stop. But again, just like with what happened to Nox, I don't believe that they're completely out just yet. Personal theory, so while Nox did, shoot a gun at them, so things were happening off screen, right? So we just saw them already down. So again, we don't actually see the gun violence, which, well, the very much realistic gun violence was at least shown, not shown actually. So it does happen off screen. So we see them out. But again, theory. So what actually happens was Nox was using non-lethal bullets. Now, uh, just a reminder, Kamen Rider Zeztz is still a science fiction show, so those non-lethal bullets do not actually kill. Those are shot, but they are put in some sort of like deep sleep, so deep that their vital signs appear to stop, but not really. So again, I'm expecting a return from codes 5 and 6 sooner or later. But anyways, enough of that. So now let's get back to Baku for a sec. So in his dream world, again, he is unconscious at this point. So of course he meets up with Nemu inside of his dream, and what Baku does is really what changes the pace of the show and is actually like the point of character development for him going forward. So he uses the power of the Catastrum Capsum inside of his dream, of course, and does something that no one would have thought would be possible. But that's for you guys to find out and see for yourselves. Now what happens is, so Baku does wake up, but now he's obviously a different person. So up until this point, right? So like Agent Baku and real world Baku can be seen as two different personalities of the same person, right? Now, of course, Agent Baku is definitely a proficient fighter. He's also fluent in some way, to some extent, like at speaking English. While real world Baku is kind of a wimp, and he doesn't speak a word of English as he would say so himself. However, again, things are now different. You would notice that Baku, once he wakes up, again, this is the real world already. Notice that he still keeps that signature cowlick that he has as Agent Baku. So, what happens is, Baku is now in his agent mode 24/7, awake or not, actually. So, even in his waking world, so Baku is now the agent that he's supposed to be, or that he envisions himself to be, right? So he's completely changed. He's not the Baku that we knew anymore, right? So even when Minami calls him out, or you know, Agent or Inspector Fujimi rather calls him like, no, I'm not going by Yorozu, Baku Yorozu anymore. I am Agent 7. So, yeah, this is, again, already in the real world. So, again, Baku sets out. So, he, of course, goes out and defeats the nightmare, and everything should be back to normal. So there's also one thing that happens in this story. So I did mention that Baku does wake up from his coma, but what he does inside of his own dream world, so it also affected Nemu as well. But again, what did he do? So that's for you to find out. So upon Baku waking up, Nemu also wakes up finally. So we do know that since from we do know that Nemu exists, right? And we learned that in episode 6 and 7, Nemu rather was in a coma after a traffic accident, but her body was actually missing. So somebody took her. Now we do know that once Nemu wakes up, so there's actually quite a revelation with that as well. So again, we learned in episode 6 and 7 that Nemu was also adopted by the owner of the talent agency that she's a part of. But now, in episode 23, when Nemu wakes up, it seems that her memories have also returned, and we are introduced to one of her true parents. So this parent is actually one that we've been seeing quite some time already, but this is again, to avoid spoilers, so something that you would have to see for yourselves. So with that said, episode 23 ends, and you know, I would say, like, given that this gives us a major character development for Baku especially, and Nem in a way, I would say like the execution of episode 23 was rock solid. Again, like Catastrum was just, I don't know, like dominating. You know, I did say earlier that, Catastrum did put a strain on Baku's body, but like after he wakes up in his complete agent mode, like he uses Catastrum again, but now there is no problem. Like he's been using it, like, I don't know, like he's been using it for a long time. So again, like the action again, really really good, and the character development is actually great. So again, because of this solid storytelling, I'm giving Kamen Rider Zeztz episode 23 a 5 out of 5. It's probably one of my favorite episodes in the series, probably the best that I've seen so far, and I am expecting great things from Zets moving forward. So now let's move on to Gavan Infinity episode 2. So again, we start off with, this misunderstanding situation where, of course, Setsuna, not knowing about other Gavins in other universes, so he tries to apprehend, Reiji, because he knows that there's only one Gavin in uh, the universe, and that's him, at least in this Cosmo layer. So yeah, I'm gonna use the term Cosmo layer going forward. So again, we see Setsuna trying to arrest the, you know, Reiji, but the criminal of the week shows up and uses an Emolgear and summons an Emons. So the Emons are Emolgear monsters, basically. So again, he also summons that. And actually, before that, so we do know that the criminal from last time, right? So they confiscate his Emolgear, but something happens. So, like, some sort of black hole or a portal to another dimension opens, but we'll get to that later. And again, Beiji using his Gavarian blaster, or Gavalian trigger, so he shoots down that portal and closes it. So now, the criminal of the week, right? So he summons his Ammons to cause trouble, and you know, uh, so I can't really explain very well, but anyways, so the criminal, of course, summons his Emolgear monster, and Reiji and Baku. Oh, Baku? I've been talking about Kamen Riders that so much. I'm so sorry, guys. But anyways, Reiji and Setsuna do work together to defeat this criminal, and they start understanding each other. Especially, we do learn about Setsuna's backstory. So it is established again way before the show started, especially during the press conference or the character reveal live stream, that basically Setsuna is an expendable clone. He's a clone that is created only to fight, and because of that, like, he lacks the emotions. And one interesting thing about Setsuna is we see his wounds recover so quickly. So he has like high healing factor. Again, given that he is engineered, he is a clone. So again, he is made for battle. But he does say that he does feel pain. He recovers instantly, but he still feels pain after battle. And we see some scenes of him and his superior Rui Amo, and there's also like a flashback of Setsuna, being talked to. Like, there's a woman talking to him, But um, while she does look like Rui, she looks more like a princess of like an alien planet. That is something that we're gonna have to learn more about when we see more of Setsuna's backstory. So again, uh, so the criminal of the week tries to fight Gavan Infinity and Gavan Bushido, and what he does, so like that portal that I've mentioned earlier, so he also summons it. Now, this portal is their version of the Maku Kukan or the Maku space. And for the new generation of viewers who have never seen the original 1982, 83 Gavan, so Agi pops in with her own mini segment and explains the Maku universe or the Maku space to us, the viewer, right? So in this iteration of Gavan, right? So Gavan Infinity. So the Maku space is like a twisted dimension where multiple dimensions quite converge, and if you are sucked in, basically you vanish, right? Because of everything that's happening in there. However, it seems that like you could be protected inside the Maku space by either one of three things. Number one, by wearing the Gavin combat suit. So the combat suit will protect you from the effects of the Maku space. Number two, being inside the Cosmo Gavalion, in which Daisuke and Age are inside, so they also dive into it. So again, if you are inside the Cosmo Gavalion, you are safe. Number three, if you are a criminal using an like a negative emulgear, so it seems that the energy of that emulgear will also protect you from the effects of the Maku space. Now, I think one difference is that uh like growing up, like having seen Gavin and Scheider, so one aspect of the Maku space in those shows is that the enemies are supposed to be stronger than they are, but they always are defeated by the space sheriffs. Meaning, it's either a lie or the space sheriffs are much stronger than we thought they are. So, but anyways, again, so the action happens within the Maku space, and we see the Cosmo Gavalion CGR, I believe, for the very first time. So we see the Cosmo Gavalion transform into its robot mode. And however, there's one thing that I noticed that kind of like is strange. You could say it's my criticism for this part of Gavan Infinity. So apparently, like you need like a few people to approve of like Commander Com requests the transformation of Cosmo Gavalion into the robot mode, and it requires like the approval of several high-ranking officers. So it's well, it's interesting to see like how the bureaucracy works, and at the same time, it's such a chore. Like, what if one of them does not approve? Like, even I think even one disapproval would ruin everything, right? So they like Commander Calm deems that the transformation into the robot mode is necessary, but again, if one of those high-ranking officers does not approve, then they could be in serious trouble. So the bureaucracy isn't interesting, but also at the same like it's an interesting aspect, but at the same time, it's a lot of uh trouble. Yeah, it's troublesome in my opinion. So unnecessary. Yeah, unnecessary in my book. But anyways, they end up getting approved, and we see the robot for the first time. So it defeats one of like the ships that we kind of see in the very first episode. So there are a lot of them. So again, we might see more in future episodes. But again, so the criminal is defeated, everybody's safe, and Leiji goes back to his own dimension, and now Setsuna knows about the existence of other Gavins in other universes, and basically, of course, he apologizes to Leiji for being rude. So like I apologize for my actions earlier, and I appreciate your help. And Leiji says, don't mind it, buddy. Like I understand. So they're now friends, basically. So yeah, and one thing, we also get to see Death Gavin, and we know that he's gonna be a villainous Gavin. Uh, so he's one of the villain Gavins, or at least he is the villain Gavin of the show, and we do see him peeking at Deiji and Setsuna. So it seems that Reiji isn't the only Gavin capable of traveling to other dimensions. So again, we are still in the early episodes, and we will definitely see more of Death Gavin in the future. So another interesting aspect, and probably a lesson in Japanese language. So we do know that Setsuna in his civilian form kind of is designed to be a samurai. So his speech is also kind of affected by that. So compared to Deiji, who uses the more not really brutish, but this is the more common like ore. So the pronoun ore, which is used by like tough guys, or like boku, uh, something that Daisuke uses, like the softer male pronoun, or the more formal watashi that Commander Calm uses. So uh, Setsuna uses neither of those. Instead, he uses the pronoun soregashi to talk about himself. Soregashi, which is interesting. Now, I do know like samurai use the word sessha to talk about themselves, but this is a bit more rare. And uh, like when he talks to Deiji, so the pronoun for you that he uses in Japanese is sokomoto. Sokomoto. So again, like the samurai version for you would be onushi. Onushi. So instead of using a sesha or onushi, so he uses more rare, and also they are archaic. They're very old words. So yeah. So it's interesting to note. So Gavin Infinity episode 2, I give it 4.5 out of 5. It's almost perfect, but I just don't like the bureaucracy part. So yeah, that's it for my take on superhero time. So thanks for watching. As always, please do leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, and don't forget that notification bell so you get the latest from JEFusion. This has been Philip. See you again. Bye.